Hi, my name is Jessica Ansaga, and this is Beyond Ministry. Today, I want to dive into the fivefold ministry of death. No, I'm not talking about the fivefold ministry given to us by God in Ephesians, but instead, I actually want to take a look at the perverted or inverted version of that fivefold system that was given to us by God. So, at the beginning, we're going to dive into the fivefold system that God gave us so that we can better understand the fivefold ministry of death. You see, over the last 15 years, I have noticed a pattern of 5 mindsets, lies, belief systems, strongholds, or demons, however you want to frame it up. But there's these 5 guys that constantly are working together. Now, one person doesn't have to deal with all 5, but it is very common for there to be a combination or all 5 at work in the believers, and non-believers as well. But they are shame, rejection, loneliness, fear, and the victim mentality. These 5 guys work together to keep us stuck. And they are the enemy. They're terrible. And it has been so transformational in my life to get free from these guys that I really want to dive into it and give us the courage and the willingness, hopefully in this video, to encourage you to go after these things in your life if you're dealing with one or many of them. So let's take a look at the fivefold ministry that God gave us in Ephesians, and then we can better understand the motives and the strategy behind the fivefold ministry of death. Okay, Ephesians 4:11 through 15. And it was he who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, and some to be pastors and teachers, to equip the works of the saints for ministry and to build up the body of Christ until, pay attention to this, until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God, as we mature into the full measure of the stature of Christ. This is a cool part. It goes on a little bit further. I just want to keep reading and then we'll go back. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed about by the waves and carried around by every wind of teaching and by clever, cunning men with their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into Christ himself. So much goodness for us to dive into here in these 4 verses. First, I really want to point out the until, that little tiny word, but the point of the fivefold ministry is to grow us up until we reach the full unity of faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God. So this concept is that the fivefold ministry is there as this support system, this strategic, thorough support system to encourage the believer and support the believer all the way through their journey until they reach a certain spot. And then the fivefold ministry isn't needed anymore. It is until we have reached the unity of faith and in the knowledge of God and as we mature in the full measure of the stature of Christ. It's kind of like an elementary teacher. The point of and the job of an elementary teacher is to train up the student to get them through those elementary years. Now, if there was no more kids coming in, that elementary teacher would be done. They fulfilled their mission. They can take the hat off that they have been wearing. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the job of the fivefold ministry is to mature the believers, and then their job is fulfilled. You see, being an apostle, prophet, evangelist, pastor, or teacher, they are merely hats that we wear. Our identity is being a son of God. This sonship is foundational to my being. So I'm a son before and I'm a son after. And as a son, I can operate because I have the Spirit in me. And the Spirit knows all things, has all things. And so as a son, I can operate as an apostle. I can operate as a pastor or as a teacher or as a prophet or an evangelist. I can wear one or multiple of these hats, but these hats are not my identity. They are not who I am. They are a role that I step into, and they're a role that I temporarily step into, and then I'm not needed anymore. Just like with the elementary teacher, if there's no more students coming in continually, then their job would be finished, and they get to go back to being a person in their identity again. So the first point I want to point out is that our identity starts and ends as sons. Our job is to love and be loved. That's what God is asking of us. Our sonship is foundational to who we are. And then beyond that, we get to partner with God on the earth doing really cool stuff, part of which we can operate in the different functions of the fivefold ministry. Now, looking at it a little bit more in depth, the fivefold ministry, each of these hats has a role and a design, and each of these 5 work together to create a really comprehensive network that supports us in our growth process. So, for example, the apostle would be like the macro perspective. They are the church planters. They are the pioneering personalities, big picture vision. They can be over multiple congregations, over multiple states or countries. And so they have that world view, that world perspective, big vision, and that macro element to the 5. On a micro level, we would have the pastors. So the pastors care for the needs of a local body. The pastor's job is to shepherd each person. And that's where we actually get our word from. The word pastor comes from the Latin word for shepherd. And so the pastor shepherds the individual needs at a localized micro perspective. So we have the macro with the apostle, the micro with the pastor. Beyond that, we have the teachers. The teachers are fun because they give like color and context. So whereas the pastors are giving more mentorship and nurturing and that shepherding and the one-on-one, the teachers are bringing color and context to the whole picture, giving historical understanding, more biblical context, cultural context to the understanding in sonship and walking this out. Next, we would have the prophets. They flow by the wind of the Spirit. They offer correction and guidance and encouragement from the Lord. And the concept with prophets is that they keep the body on track. They keep the body headed the right direction for future and for the current where they are operating at. So the prophets give that vision casting. There's just forth-calling, foretelling about the future and giving that correction now words as well. And last but certainly not least, we have the evangelists, which the evangelists are the light on the hill. They're the ones saying, come, taste and see that the Lord is good. Come, all who are weary and weak, and we will show you how to find rest and how to find peace for your soul. So these 5, we have the light on the hill calling them in. We've got the macro perspective, the micro perspective, the teachers giving more context and color, and the prophets giving that encouragement and guidance, correction, and that vision casting for where we are going. With these 5, it is a very comprehensive support system for the body of Christ. And I've noticed with this 5, that there is also the inverted comprehensive system to keep the believers stuck. And so in the fivefold ministry of death, they have worked very well together to keep the believers entangled in lies. And it can be frustrating or difficult or intimidating even to go after these 5, which we're going to dive into in just a minute. My hope today is to encourage you, empower you to go after these guys and choose to decide that what they are saying is a lie. So let's go in reverse to the fivefold ministry that we just did. The victim spirit would be the evangelist. He would be the light on the hill calling you in. Why is the victim spirit the evangelist? Because the victim spirit makes you feel seen. You're validated in your pain. I understand. It is this false comfort that the victim spirit offers. The victim spirit wants to comfort you, give you that shoulder to cry on, but it leaves you stuck. It leaves you broken. So you feel seen, you feel heard, you feel cared for, and yet you're still broken. And yet you are stuck in your stuff, not getting free, not getting out. Next, we could talk about rejection being the prophet. So rejection is the vision caster. So it is saying, look at the other times that you have been rejected in the past, and now looking in the future, you're going to be rejected again. And so the rejection mentality, mindset, lies, however you want to frame it up, rejection will tempt you to either sabotage. So you reject people ahead of time so that you're not rejected, because rejection is inevitable. is what it says. Or you sit in fear, waiting, that dreadful wait that maybe I'm going to be rejected, maybe I'm going to be rejected, maybe I'm going to be rejected. And so rejection is constantly looking into the future, anticipating that rejection, being a prophet. Next, we would have shame being the teacher. So I would say that shame is the teacher because shame brings context and color, just like the teacher does for the gospel. Shame brings context and color to the lies of these 5 and the lies in your life. So shame is crazy because it takes facts and then it attaches a lie to the fact. And that's what makes shame so tricky. When you attach a lie to the fact, when your brain hears the fact, your brain says, I know this to be true, so the lie must also be true. And that's what shame does and how he's so sneaky. So it attaches identity to the actions. So shame says that I am what has been done to me, or I am what I have done. And that is not the gospel. That is not truth. But that's the trick of shame. So shame brings color and context to the lies because it's giving you facts. So it's saying this is why the lie is true. And this is why this mindset is validated because don't you know what you've done? Don't you know what's been done to you? But he is a liar because Jesus has removed all of that from us. Jesus does not value us and judge us and attach our actions to us. Behold, the old has gone and the new has come. Okay? So that would be shame. Next, I would say that loneliness is the pastor. I would say this because loneliness is this ever-present tormentor. Just like the pastor is there to constantly nurture your soul and help you in the growth process, loneliness seems to be this ever-present tormentor to bring you down, to keep you stuck. Even in crowds, you can feel so isolated and so alone in this crushing void in your life. And then especially when you're physically alone, then loneliness can feel completely overwhelming. And last, but certainly not least, I would say that fear is the apostle of this group. Fear is that macro world vision perspective. Fear is the only one out of the 5 that I would say every single person on the planet deals with. Fear is that number 1 foundational thing that we all have so deeply ingrained into us. Fear of pain, fear of rejection, fear of death, fear of loss, fear of fear of spiders, like you name it. There's so many different types of fear. And fear brings that macro perspective, that macro shepherding over everybody, that macro covering over your soul. Fear is the guy who claims to be this false protector, kind of like the covering that an apostleship brings. Fear is this apostleship false covering of, I'm just trying to keep you safe. I'm just trying to help you be wise with money. I'm just trying to help you be wise in the world. I'm just trying to help you live a good life. Fear is so sneaky with that. And so with these 5, when we try and go after them in our life, because they are entangled together in a network, they are a sticky web. And so when you go after one, often when you go after fear, then rejection will be triggered. Or you go after rejection and then shame will be triggered. Or whatever combination. You can deal with one or all of them. But usually it's multiple. And when you do, it's pulling on the others because they're so intertwined into each other and they make this mess in our soul. Together, they make a very convincing picture justifying your soul to stay bound and to stay stuck, to stay powerless, and to stay immature. But the point of these 5, their goal in life is to kill, steal, and destroy. That's all that they want. They want to bring death in every area. And remember, the power has been taken away from them. The only power that these guys have is the power that I give them in listening to them. The power that I give them in saying, yeah, I'm going to give rejection real estate in my heart. And I'm going to give fear real estate. And yeah, fear is a protector. So fear is just trying to keep me safe. He's a good buddy. Okay, well, that makes sense about rejection. That makes sense about the victim spirit. Like I feel validated. I feel cared for. I feel seen with the victim mentality. All of these guys are so sneaky for the way that they sneak in, but they keep us stuck. And so in the videos to come, I'm going to be posting encounters going after these 5. And I hope that today is going to inspire you to take a look and just look at your life. Look at the fruit in your life. Do any of these things that I discussed resound with you? It's like, I might do with one or multiple of those. Then I want to encourage you to go after them, because as intimidating as it might feel to go after this network, it is so freeing to be on the other side. When I started my inner healing journey, for me personally, shame was the first one that I went after. And it was almost physically painful to face shame, because shame was throwing these facts in my face. And it was like, I'm trying to argue against facts, which were true. Those things did happen, or those things did happen to me. And so then it was really hard to look at shame and say, you're a liar, when there was facts that were being thrown at me. So what's important to realize in this journey, and what I learned early on, was that truth supersedes fact. Heaven's reality supersedes the earthly realm, the actions that are done. What Jesus says is key. He is King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He is the author. He's the finisher of our faith. What Jesus says goes. And so I can believe what Jesus says above the facts. So I can look at shame and say, you are a liar. I am not my actions, and I am not the actions that have done to me. Those are separated from me. Those are under the blood. I have everything that Jesus has. Everything that he has been given, he has given to me. That is the truth. And he is my identity. And so I started going after shame. And it was, like I said, painful, so painful. It was painful to go after loneliness, that crushing void that was in my life. All of these, they were so deep in my soul that they were very challenging to come against. It took faith, quite frankly, for me to say, what you're saying is wrong, and I'm going to choose to believe what Jesus says instead. But as I did that over and over and over again, I started getting free. And I got more freedom and more peace and more life and more joy in my life. And I began to get hungry for inner healing. It became like a thirst where I just wanted more. I wanted more breakthrough. I wanted more healing because of how good I was feeling. I didn't know that I could feel as good as I do. I want you to know that Jesus is big enough. And these guys are liars. And these guys are not your friends. They are not your comfort. They are not the ones that you want to have hanging around. So if you're willing, let's dive into some encounters in the videos to come. You can explore with Jesus the real estate of your heart that we have given to these guys, and see what it's like to take the land back and walk in more joy, more life, more peace that Jesus has for us. Remember, if it's not found in heaven, it doesn't have to be found in you. Jesus has paid the price. He's done the heavy lifting. And now all he needs is our willingness, our yes to go after this. So I'm excited to dive into this with you, and I'll see you in some videos to come.